Well, it's that time of year. A time for some tough conversations, but for others, a time for excitement, knowing they made the Commanders' 53-man roster. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we are here to talk about everything involving the Washington Commanders. Today, we got a special video lined up for you. We are going to put out our final 53-man roster prediction. The cuts are due on Tuesday, I believe, at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be posting updates as we get closer to that, and we will react to the official roster once it is revealed as part of our always daily uploads. Make sure you guys do have to hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I've put out two roster predictions beforehand, once before the first preseason game, and then one last week on, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday. But these are my official predictions. I'm locking them in. And once the official roster does come out, we're going to be able to go back and compare and see how we did. There have been a lot of talking points. Injury talk. Is Noah Brown, Sam Cosmi, are they going to be ready? What about some rookies, some UDFAs? How are we going to handle the Terry McLaurin situation? What effect does that have on the receiver, tight end, running back rooms? The quarterback 3 battle? Are they going to roster a quarterback, an emergency quarterback? Is it just going to be Jayden and Mariota? We have a lot of conversations to be had here. So without further ado, bam, let's get the editing in full effect. We're going to start it off with our quarterbacks here. I'm only keeping 2 of them. You can see that right there. Jayden Daniels and Marcus Mariota. Last year, the Commanders kept 3. It was Daniels, Mariota, and Jeff Driscoll for their Week 1 unofficial depth chart. Who did we play in Week 1 last year? How do I not know this off the top of my... The Buccaneers. It was at the Buccaneers, of course. The blowout loss, 35-17, something like that. This was their official depth chart last year, or unofficial depth chart, Jayden, Mariota, and Driscoll. I only got 2. The way that Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman performed during the preseason, there's no reason to keep them on the roster. And let's be honest, do you want to have a third quarterback available if you need it? Sure. But if Jayden goes down and if Mariota goes down, it doesn't matter if you have the best quarterback 3 in the league. You're going to win 4 to 5 games, best case scenario. Best case scenario. Probably fewer than that. Who's the best QB3 in the NFL right now? That's a good question. I'll be interested to see, to think about how they would do with the schedule the Commanders are going to face and with the rest of the team around them. But Jayden and Mariota, again, Hartman, I don't even know if he's going to make the practice squad. He was truly abysmal throughout the preseason. Him and Johnson threw at least 1 interception in every game. With how much competition there is at other spots on the roster, I just don't see how you waste a spot on either one of them. Because if either one of them gets in the game, it's going to be awful anyway. So what's the point? Let's move on over to running backs. Last year, the Commanders had 3 of them on their roster going into Week 1. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Ekeler, and Jeremy McNichols. Obviously, B-Rob is not in the room anymore, and the Commanders drafted a rookie. So it should come as no surprise. We got 4 of them this time around. Jacory, Croskey-Merritt, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Austin Ekeler, and Jeremy McNichols. They do make my Week 1 depth chart, my first 53-man roster. Kaz Allen is somebody that the Commanders tried to give a ton of opportunities to throughout the preseason. It's very obvious they want to find a role for him. However, I don't think one exists at this time. I do expect him to be on the practice squad. Also, depending on the possibilities that exist, I think Jeremy McNichols and even potentially Austin Ekeler could be floated as trade bait. Not expecting either one of those deals to go through, but I am just saying, in the interest of covering all my bases, I think that's a possibility. Deatrich Felton, we'll see what happens to him. I currently don't have him on practice squad either, although I will say I didn't fill out the complete 70-man roster, which does include practice squad players. I highlighted probably 5, 6, 7 guys I think could make it, but I knew the full prediction, so maybe Felton ends up on the P squad as well, but we'll talk about that in another video because we only care about the 53 right here. Let's go over to the receiver battle. This is a loaded room. I got the Commanders keeping 6 of those guys, and that might seem like a lot, but here's the thing. They actually had 7 for the Week 1 depth chart last season. You remember who they are? Let's go through it. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Olamide Zaccheaus, Jamison Crowder, Deami Brown, and Byron Pringle was in as a 7th wide receiver. There have been some conversations that there's only 5 receivers worth keeping this time around. Let me say this. I think there are 5 that are no doubters. Matter of fact, there are 5 that are no doubters. The 6th, obviously I'm keeping 6, so I do have someone filling that spot. I think depending on what goes on across the rest of the league, if other players are released and they seem like they could be viable additions to the Commander squad, I do think they will sign a 6th receiver, and that means my number 6 will probably get moved to the P squad. But enough waiting. Let's look at my 6. I got Terry McLaurin, Jaylen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Deebo Samuel, and I have Jacory Brooks on the roster as the 6th receiver right now. Like I mentioned, if the Commanders want to sign somebody who gets released from somewhere else, then Brooks probably going to go to the P squad. I have KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, Tay Martin, River Craycraft, Chris Moore, Jacoby Jones, and anyone else I missed. I have them all missing the roster. I think KJ Osborne and Michael Gallup are probably in contention. Tay Martin as well in contention for that wide receiver 6 spot. KJ Osborne has had a certain degree of success in the NFL, as has Michael Gallup. Some also possibly you can get a 7th round pick for them if there's any interest on the open market. But ultimately, if they don't make the team, I'm expecting maybe one of them makes the P squad and the other is released. So I got my 6: McLaurin, Lane, McCaffrey, Brown, Samuel, and Brooks. My tight ends, no big surprises here. I've got the same 4 that the team had last year. Literally the same exact 4, probably in the same order on the depth chart. We're going to go Zach Ertz, John Bates, Ben Sinnott, and Colson Yankoff. I know a lot of people are unhappy with Ben Sinnott right now. I understand it. He's a 2nd round pick. He's expected to produce, and he has not done that, especially in this preseason. Here's what I would say. Basically, nobody from the pass catchers has produced aside from Jacory Brooks. And even with him producing, he was under 100 yards across 3 games in the regular season. The quarterback play from Sam Hartman and Josh Johnson has just been so bad that I understand we all want to see more from Ben Sinnott, just like we want to see more from Luke McCaffrey, but it's almost impossible to do in these conditions. If we get to week 8 and he's doing nothing during the regular season, then sure, we can have a huge conversation about him. But I've seen people say Colson Yankoff proved with that one play that he deserves to be ahead of Ben Sinnott. Not going to go that far. It's literally one play. Anybody could have been lined up in the seam. Credit to Colson Yankoff for making the play. Don't get me wrong. Credit for catching the pass, bouncing off the tackle, rumbling downfield. Awesome for him. That definitely helped him make my 53-man roster. But let's not act as if he's going to be the heir apparent to Zach Ertz. Let's give time some time. Let's just see what happens. Move over to the tackle spots here. This one required a lot of thought and a lot of reconfiguration because of what is going to happen later on at the center position for me, which I will obviously talk about when I get there. But I do have 4 tackles, just like the Commanders kept 4 tackles last year. They had Brandon Coleman, Andrew Wylie, Cornelius Lucas, and Trent Scott. And Cornelius Lucas was the week 1 starter, and then later he got into that rotation with Brandon Coleman. Well, Coleman's not even playing tackle this year. We know that. So my 4 tackles: Laramie Tunsil, Josh Conerly Jr., Trent Scott, and Andrew Wylie. Wylie's been working in at some guard. He was there at left guard when Coleman was dealing with that ankle injury, but with Coleman back in the fold, it seems if Wylie, sorry, that was really bad, as if Wylie's going to be going back to the right tackle, maybe rotating with Josh Conerly, maybe starting, maybe backing him up. We'll see. Bobby Hart does not make the team. George Fant, somebody who was really close, and when I put out my roster predictions a few days ago, I had George Fant on the team, but that's because I thought Brandon Coleman was still hurt. If he's healthy enough to the point that he can play in a preseason game, Fant probably going to try to get stashed on the P squad, or he might just end up being released. It's a shame because I really do want to keep him more than one other lineman I'm going to keep, but just for logistical reasons, I can't make that happen. We'll get to that in about 60 seconds, maybe even less. Over at the guard spot, the Commanders only kept 3 of these bad boys last season. They had Nick Allegretti, Sam Cosmi, and Chris Paul as a swing guard. Those were the 3 for week 1 last season. This time around, I got Nick Allegretti, Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul, and I do have Sam Cosmi on the 53-man roster. Do I expect him to start in week 1? I can't say that's my expectation because, to be truthful, I don't really know where he's at in his rehab process. Listening to Dan Quinn, he says that Cosmi is hitting the markers, which means he's got to be at least close to practicing / being in contention for a start in week 1, week 2, week 3. The problem with not having Cosmi on the opening 53 and having him on the PUP list is that he cannot play the first 4 games, no matter what. You start the year on PUP, you can't play in the first 4 games. So I think the team will put him on the 53-man roster, and if he's not ready to play in week 1, that's fine. They'll just leave him on the bench. But if you can get him back by week 3, that's better than starting him on PUP, and he can't play until week 5. So that's my reasoning there. At the center position, the Commanders had 2 last year, Tyler Biadasz and Michael Deiter. I had them with the exact same 2. Now, let me be honest. I think of the linemen in contention, and let's put George Fant in there as well. I think Michael Deiter, pretty clearly the worst offensive lineman that there is, as I just smacked my table. Sorry about the camera shake there. I think Deiter is bad. No offense to the guy, nothing personal at all, I promise. But when he got to play last year, he was not good. When Biadasz was injured, have not been impressed during this preseason. I wanted to keep Nick Allegretti as my backup center. However, I was reading a report from Lionel Willingham, and he said that the Allegretti snaps during camp have not gone well. There have been some errant snaps. And so as much as I want Allegretti to serve as a guard and a center, and that would allow me to keep George Fant to be that 10th offensive lineman, it sounds like it's going to have to be Deiter. And with the competition on this roster, once again, we don't know what's happening with that wide receiver 6 spot. There's going to be 4 running backs. This is already assuming there's only 2 quarterbacks. We're going to get into the defensive competition over there. I just don't see how you have 11 offensive linemen. Last year, the team only had 9. Again, if we go through it real quick, Coleman, Wylie, Lucas, Scott, Allegretti, Paul, Cosmi, Biadasz, and Deiter. Oh, I held up 10 fingers. Where did I go wrong? Coleman, Wylie, Lucas, Scott, Allegretti, Paul, Cosmi, Biadasz, Deiter. There's your 9. So to go to 11 this time around, it's not going to happen. That's more than twice as many spots available or that are available, and it's just not realistic. Defensive end and edge. This is another position group with a lot of competition. Obviously, I have 5. That is the same 5, the same amount that the Commanders had last season in week 1. They had Clelin Ferrell, Dorrance Armstrong, Jamin Davis, don't forget about him, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and Dante Fowler Jr. They also listed Dominique Campton as outside linebacker, which I know it says DE on the screen. It's DE/edge, so we're counting it all as edge rushers. But we all knew Dom Hampton was not going to be rushing the passer. So really, it was just 5. This time around, I got Von Miller, Deatrich Wise, Jacob Martin, Dorrance Armstrong, and Clelin Ferrell. Armstrong has shown an ability to move to the inside, so that's something to keep an eye on, but he's not going to line up there full time. He's still an edge player. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, I thought maybe 2-3 weeks ago he was going to be a lock to make this team. I had Jacob Martin off of the team, but I'll be honest, he blew me away in that Bengals game, and I think overall he has been pretty solid. Armstrong, Wise, Miller, they're making the team. Ferrell does seem to be lower down the depth chart, but he was better than Jean-Baptiste last season, and Jean-Baptiste dealt with some injuries. He hasn't looked amazing throughout this preseason so far. He's somebody who I think could also be floated as trade bait. You'd like to stash him on the P squad if possible, but I just don't think there's space for him on the team. Jalen Holmes, Andre Jones Jr., TJ Magureyenga, still can't pronounce his name, haven't figured it out yet. Really, I haven't heard someone say it on the broadcast so that I can repeat it. But all those guys, I have them missing the team as well. Defensive tackle, this is another change from the prediction I put out last week, and I have them keeping 5. I thought they were going to only keep 4, but I have them keeping 5. Last year, they had 4. They had Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Johnny Newton, and Fedarian Mathis, who was just released by the New York Jets. So maybe he comes in as a P squad guy. I don't know if the relationship is still there or not. But the 5 that I have the Commanders keeping, I got Javon Kinlaw, Daron Payne, Johnny Newton, Sheldon Day, and Eddie Goldman. I thought they were going to be competing for the same spot, but the way my roster shook out, I had space to keep both of them. Now, let me say this. About a month into the season or so, they're probably going to move to 4. That would be my idea. I think they're not totally sure, and I could be totally wrong here. This is me speculating. I think they're not going to be totally sure on how they want to approach the defensive line. You've got a minimum 5 edge rushers making the team. If they like Jean-Baptiste, they want to keep him around, then it could be 6. We know that they don't have a superstar edge rusher, so there's going to be a constant rotation. Try to keep guys as close to 100% energy as possible, so when they get in the game and they're going against a tired offensive lineman, even if that offensive lineman is better than they are, they're at their best, whereas the offensive lineman is drained, and they can use their speed, use their strength, power, whatever, to get to the quarterback. I could see a similar situation happening with the defensive tackles, particularly given the Commanders' inability to stop the run last year. I think it's going to take some time for them to figure out what fronts, what looks, what personnel groups they want to go to, mix and match to really stop the run effectively. Because even if they're better than they were last year, they were atrocious last year. They could come out the gates better than that, but still be 20th. And 20th for the team where it wants to go, that's not going to be good enough. So I could see experiments with Day and Goldman and Newton and Payne. Day has shown more throughout the preseason, and he was solid last season. He's shown an ability to break through the line and get some TFLs, put pressure on the quarterbacks. Goldman has not looked as good as Day, but he is a massive man, 6'4", 320. So when you get to a game against the Eagles, which I know isn't until week 16, which is still crazy. I don't know how, with the rivalry, the budding rivalry that could shape its course of the NFL for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know how you wait until week 16 to get the matchup, and then it's 2 and 3 weeks in week 18 as well. That's crazy. But Eddie Goldman does bring a lot of size. So in those short yardage situations, even if he's not playing as good as Day, as well as Day, well, he has size and maybe he plays a role there. So Kinlaw, Payne, Newton, Day, and Goldman got them all on the team. Ricky Barber, someone who was close and in consideration, unlucky to miss out. Carl Davis misses out. Norrell Pollard, I think he's a P squad guy. He was a UDFA rookie last year. I think he was injured, so he didn't get to play or even try to show his stuff at all. Thought he made some splash plays in the preseason, not enough to get on the team, but as a young player, I think he's worth keeping around. The linebackers, here is an unexpected development. I only have them keeping 4, and same thing as the defensive tackles. I had a different number last week. I've changed my mind here. I went back and I looked at who the Commanders kept for week 1 of last year. They only kept 4, and here are the 4. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Luvu, Michael Walker, and Dominique Hampton. I don't remember either one of them getting a snap. And I know the Commanders favored dime personnel an awful lot last season, but when you look at these linebackers, it makes total sense why. They didn't have anyone else that they trusted to get out on the field. And even though there is more depth now, the depth still isn't amazing. The team was getting run all over once the second, third, fourth stringers got in the games. So I don't think they want to keep a huge linebacking group, especially with the depth that they have in the secondary and on the defensive line. So once again, I think it's 4 linebackers. I think it's going to be Bobby Wagner, Frankie Luvu, Jordan McGee, and Kane Medrano. Now, there are 3 guys here who could easily end up on the roster. Cam Arnold, unfortunately, I think he's out of the running. Ali Cajo had a solid preseason. He was the Commander, I believe he was the Commander's highest graded player on Pro Football Focus in the final game against the Ravens. He seems to be a very sure-handed tackler, a UDFA out of UCLA. So he was teammates with Medrano there, and Ken Norton was his coach as well. So good experience there. He's a lock for the P squad at the minimum, if they can keep him around. Duke Riley, someone I thought, when I made my predictions last week, I thought he would be on the team. And I thought that he would be there because of his veteran presence, his consistency. He's played at least 16 games in 4 straight seasons. Even if he's not on the field much, I thought having a solid veteran presence would be enticing for the Commanders front office. I also have Nick Bellore off the team. I got into a conversation with someone in the comments on my last prediction, and they were saying there's no way they're cutting Bellore. He's more than a special teams guy. Well, he's played a total of 30 defensive snaps over the last 5 or 6 years. Everything else is special teams. So he's purely there for special teams. And when I look at the other players the Commanders have there, I just don't know that his services are required anymore. And once again, there is so much competition to make this roster. With McGee, Dan Quinn said after the Ravens game, he said McGee is just such an awesome linebacker. Joe Witt Jr. called him the most impressive player at camp. They want to get him on the field. And Kane Medrano wouldn't surprise me if he led the Commanders in snaps during this preseason. So I think they like both of them enough to only keep 4 and feel comfortable putting them on the field when Wagner and Luvu need a blow. Moving over to corners. The Commanders kept 5 last year. You want to talk about an upgrade? Listen to this. Here was their 5 a year ago. Mike Sainristil, Benjamin St. Juste, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., Michael Davis, and Noah Igbenogany. This time around, I got them keeping Marshawn Lattimore, Trey Amos, Mike Sainristil, Noah Igbenogany, and Jonathan Jones. I think Jonathan Jones could be dangled as trade bait, maybe Noah Iatu potentially, but I think Jones is the more likely of that pair. I got Antonio Hamilton Sr., somewhat in contention, but missing the roster. Carlin Vigors probably getting a practice squad spot. Bobby Price off of the team. Safeties. This surprised me. Last year in week 1, the Commanders had 6 on their roster. Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, Derek Forrest, Jeremy Reaves, Tyler Owens, and Percy Butler. A little bit of movement this time around. I have them keeping 5. I have them with Quan Martin, Jeremy Reaves, Tyler Owens, Will Harris, and Percy Butler. Robert McDaniel in contention could end up on the P squad. Ben Nickel and Daryl Worley, they miss out. And then the special teamers, we got 3 in total, 1 kicker, 1 punter, 1 long snapper, Matt Gay, Tressway, and Tyler Ott. I really would expect some competition, if any exists out there, some competition to come in for Matt Gay. His kickoffs, they were better against the Ravens, but they were really bad in the first 2 games. He can't make a kick from beyond 50 yards. It's just, in this modern NFL, it's not good enough. So why don't we do one very quick final review here? Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Bill, C-Rod, Ekeler, McNichols, McLaurin, Lane, McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Deebo, Jacory Brooks, Zach Ertz, John Bates, Ben Sinnott, Colson, Yankoff, Josh Conerly Jr., Laramie Tunsil, Trent Scott, Andrew Wylie, Nick Allegretti, Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul, Sam Cosmi, Tyler Biadasz, and Michael Deiter. That is, let's see, I'm doing quick math. That's 20. That's 26 guys. So we got 26 on offense, 27 on defense. Didn't even know that until just now. My defensive end and edge, I got Von Miller, Deatrich Wise, Jacob Martin, Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell. Go to defensive tackles, Javon Kinlaw, Deron Payne, Johnny Newton, Sheldon Day, and Eddie Goldman. Linebackers, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Luvu, Kane Madrano, Jordan McGee. Cornerbacks, Noah Igbenogany, Marshawn Lattimore, Trey Amos, Mike Sainristil, Jonathan Jones. Safeties, Quan Martin, Jeremy Reaves, Tyler Owens, Will Harris, Percy Butler. Special teams, Matt Gay, Tressway, Tyler Ott. That is my official 53-man roster prediction, guys. Go to the comment section right now. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what your thoughts are. If you want to leave me your 53-man, more power to. Please don't feel compelled to, but I love reading your comments, as I always do. And again, if I try to respond to everybody. If I don't get to you, just know that I did read it, and I do appreciate you being here. Hit the like button on this video, please, guys. That is the easiest way to support me. It helps out the channel so much. You have no idea. Hit that subscribe button. We're on the hunt to 2,000 subscribers, which is awesome. I can honestly say, when I started this channel, never thought I would even get there. So to get there this quickly just shows how amazing this Commanders fan base is. You guys are the real MVPs, the returning subscribers. I love and appreciate all of you. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.